Success and failures are humans' construct. Reason why I say this is because we've spent most of our lives trying to define ourselves, trying to define our worth based on our successes, based on how we failed. But in the end, God doesn't see us that way. Because if He did saw us that way, grace wouldn't even be something He would offer us. Reading throughout the Bible, you'll see all of these people, these stories of different people that he used, and some of them had successes and some of them had failures. If you looking at Peter denied Jesus twice. You think Jesus would say, oh, well, you denied me 3 times, not even twice, 3 times, and I'm done with you? You would think when he told Moses to do something, Moses had anger, Moses didn't follow instructions properly. You think he cared about that? He didn't. When Paul, who would have thought Paul, the one that was killing Christians, the one that was persecuting Christians, became somebody that was also saving lives? He did not care about that. He took the worst of the worst. David even. He set up David. He went and got David from being a shepherd and made him king. And David still failed. He did the most terrible thing ever. But God still used him. In the end, all of those people, God still used all of them. So don't count your successes, don't count your failures as the end all, because none of these things define who we are. God gave us grace for a reason. He offered us grace for that very reason, because none of these things define where we are going to end up at the end of the day. The man on the cross, even in the end, he confessed his sins and he repented. And he was with God in the end. I'm not saying to do the same thing, but all I'm saying, God is the definer of your worth. God is a definer of everything. Nothing you do, anything you don't do is not going to define who you are. Only we as humans define who we are. Only social media can try to define who you are, but no one can define who you are except God Himself. So let that be your thought process, that any mistakes that you made, yes, action have consequences. We have consequences in life. That's life. But they don't define who you are. They don't define what happens next, because God is still writing your story. God is still writing your story. We put a period at the end of things, but God says, now we're going to continue.